Hello everyone. So I have decided that because there is so much going on, to start a new weekly segment called This Week in Trump. Hold on to your hats because this should be very exciting, and quite frankly I think this administration is going to give us a lot to talk about. So, as you all know, last week was interesting. It was his first week in office, and a lot happened. He signed a lot of executive orders, including things such as repealing the Affordable Care Act, or I should say parts of it. You know, the parts that are important, like being able to stay on your parents' insurance till you're 26, being able to afford insurance, period. And also things such as the border wall. You know, the one that Mexico's going to pay for. Apparently that means a 20% increase on avocados, which means if you like guacamole, you might want to get to the grocery store quick because it could run out. And a lot of other things. Now, while that controversy is still going on, including the numbers of his inauguration debate and whether or not he's actually doing a good job, he signed yet another executive order, and this one's a little more controversial. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's that lovely immigration ban. Immigration ban. Which basically stated that people from several Muslim countries could not enter the United States. There were 7 total, including, but not limited to, Iran, Iraq, and Syria. You know, that country where Aleppo was. Now, what's interesting is that this executive order was signed so fast and implemented so quickly that it quickly became controversial. Why? Because, like many things, this administration didn't quite think it out. You see, there were already people in airplanes traveling to the United States when this executive order was signed and made into a policy that people had to enforce. People with green cards, permanent residencies that happened to be immigrants, or in the case of 2 Iraqi soldiers, people that had already been granted asylum in this country. Now, why is that such a big deal? Well, Trump effectively said that these people had to go through what is termed as extreme vetting before they could enter this country. But you should know that the United States already has some of the harshest and most extreme vetting policies of any Western country in the world. Now, while this was going on, and this debate is still continuing today, the world effectively downgraded the United States. You see, for 240 years, the United States had, since its inception, been classified as a full democracy, meaning that the people's voices mattered and that it ran somewhat smoothly. The instant Trump took office, because of the amount and breadth of his executive orders, it was downgraded from a full democracy to a flawed democracy. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We now live in a flawed democracy. You know what other countries have flawed democracies? Russia, Colombia, and most of South America. Let that sink in for a second. We are now in the same category as Russia as far as democracy goes. Now, Trump didn't back down from his statement or what he said. In fact, he didn't even rescind his executive order after realizing what kind of chaos it was covering. He doubled down and said, in fact, that the executive order was working just as he had intended it to, and that it was going to keep people that were undesirable out of this country, despite 17 intelligence agencies telling him that it could actually increase our problem and that it was causing mass confusion in airports the nation over. It became so controversial, as a matter of fact, that a federal judge based in Brooklyn decided that he needed to put a temporary stay, meaning that parts of Trump's executive order were, for now, unable to be enforced. What parts? The very parts that made it controversial in the first place. It allows people now with green cards to get back in the country. People who are granted asylum to actually be given asylum. And people who are actual permanent residents or going through the process to become permanent residents, access to this country. You know, the way things were since 1925. Now, I'm not saying that perhaps we should take a second look, but I think it's time that we actually look at what's going on. There was a rumor even started that Trump later had to back himself off of, saying that he was going to strip away the federal rights of LGBTQ workers. That's a thing. It took Spicer, his now new press secretary, to come out and say, we might have been considering it, but we have walked back on that for now. This is the same man that not 3 days ago had to walk back on his claim that Mexico was going to pay for the border wall because naturally they realized you can't make a foreign country pay for what they don't want to pay for. It doesn't work like that. It can't. Not to mention the fact that in the middle of the night, Trump and his executive orders effectively pulled us out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And many Asian countries said that that was the partnership that was going to get them to trade with the United States, effectively handing over economic power in Asia to China. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is just in 1 week. 1 week. But stay tuned, because next week we'll be discussing what Trump has done then, and probably how he's walking us further towards the edge. I love you all. Hope to see you soon. Tune in next week. Click subscribe. Mwah. Thank you very much.